All right, this is part 2 of our study of chapter 21. The last video left off with the Stamp Act of 1765. Next important event of the American Revolution would be the Boston Massacre of 1770. British troops were protecting the customs house in the city of Boston. This is the house that any imports that would come in to Boston would go through the customs house to be checked. The colonists were outside of that, and they started throwing snowballs at some of the soldiers that were guarding the customs house. The soldiers fired and killed 5 people, and the colonists would draw on this event to inflame anti-British feeling. So when you think of massacre, you think, wow, this has got to be a lot of people who died. Now, 5 deaths is 5 more deaths than there should be. And so I don't want to, discredit, that 5 people, were killed, because that is a tragedy, absolutely. However, to call it a massacre was really the colonists' attempt to fan the flames of this feeling for anti-British mindset in the New World. In 1773, again in Boston, the colonists refused to buy British tea because of a tea tax. This British tea, even with its tax, was cheaper than smuggled Dutch tea. So the colonists refused to buy British tea because they didn't want to recognize the legitimacy of Parliament. So it's not the fact that they didn't want to pay for the tea because the taxes were too high. Really, they were just trying to make a point, saying that we don't want to pay your taxes. The tea with the taxes on it was still cheaper than buying smuggled-in tea. When a ship of British tea arrived, there were no buyers, and the colonists dumped the tea into the harbor. And so this is, again, them showing that we're getting fed up with England controlling us. In 1776, Thomas Paine writes Common Sense. Now, this is a pamphlet that argued in very clear and very forceful language for the colonies to become independent. He wanted the colonies to become independent states, break all political ties with the British monarchy. Paine argues that it is common sense for a large continent to be ruled. Paine argues that it was against common sense for a large continent like North America to be ruled by a very small and distant land. It just doesn't make common sense. Joseph Brant was a native that supported the British, and the Battle of Yorktown. The French came to America's aid. Cornwallis surrenders at Yorktown, just a few miles down the road. And then in 1783, the Treaty of Paris is signed. It's called the Treaty of Paris because it was signed in Paris. Towards the end of the Revolutionary War, Britain wanted to get out because it was getting so expensive. So a treaty was signed in Paris between England and the colonies that recognized the U.S. as an independent nation. The Articles of Confederation was our founding fathers' first real attempt at a document to govern us. It had a lot of flaws. One of the largest being that every state could make their own money, and if you wanted to make a change to the Articles of Confederation, everybody had to agree to make that change. They're going to end up getting rid of this, and in 1787, they're going to have the Constitutional Convention. So just 4 years after they have technically become an independent country in 1783. Remember, 1776 is when the United States of America declared their independence. I should say when the British colonies declared their independence from Britain. They don't officially become a country until 1783, and they don't even get the Constitution until 1787. And so this new Constitution is really going to establish our democratic form of government, and that's the document that still governs us today. So that wraps up our study of the American Revolution. It was not by any stretch of the imagination exhaustive. There is a lot more that took place. However, the focus of this class is more on what's going on in the rest of the world. Now, we do need to mention what's going on in the American Revolution because it's going to spark other revolutions. What you're going to do now, and with the rest of the time that you have in class, Ms. Bergamini is going to give you a chart. The top of the chart, it says chart 21.1 because it comes from chapter 21, and it discusses 3 different revolutions. The American Revolution, which we talked about briefly, the French Revolution, and the Haitian Revolution, which it says Revolution of Saint Domingo, which is the Haitian Revolution, Santo Domingo. You need to start working on that in class right now, and it will be due for homework next class. Also finish reading chapter 21 over the weekend, and I will see you on Monday. Have a good weekend.